The Maple Leafs survive a scare in Columbus, but do come away with the victory, hit a milestone while doing it as well, and then they're back at it tomorrow against the Kraken. We'll tell you exactly how we feel about their chances in that game tomorrow on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother from TSN's Overdrive and TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joined by my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet. He's also a writer for the NHLPA, and Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast from for the audio form. You can now catch us up on video as well on YouTube. Just search us up, Locked On Leafs. We'll be doing a giveaway once we hit the 500 subs mark. So make sure you head over there and get yourself involved in that giveaway. Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection of reliable low prices, all the parts your car can ever afford. Visit rockauto.com. Leafs survive a big-time scare here, Dave. They defeat the Columbus Blue Jackets 5-4 after seemingly looking like they were going to walk away with this one after the first period. A dominant first period. And then it kind of got away from them a little bit, but able to hang on, unlike we saw happen Saturday night. But I think tonight was a much better effort. And they got like that one extra save that they've been asking for. They got it. They actually did. Dave, what'd you think about tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, I was that first period start, you couldn't have asked for anything better on both ends of the ice. Columbus only had 5 shots on goal in that first period.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you want to see there. But yeah, as soon as it got to 3-1, it was staying at 3-1 for a bit. I'm just like, man, I don't like 3-1 leads. Because all you need is for the other team to get one goal and they're right back in it.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, in our preview show, that Columbus is a team that doesn't go away easily. They're a team that I think somebody was mentioning, like they're no strangers to comebacks.
They lead the league with I think I want to say 10 comeback wins or 13 comeback wins this season.
Like that's not a team that you can just sit back on, right? And
Yeah.
that's the part that was a little frustrating, is seeing it was more so, the second and third goals. You just kind of shake your head at those that are like
18, by the way. 18 come from behind victories. Yeah.
that's impressive. But that's something that if you're the Leafs, okay, we got to really watch out, because these guys are not going to make it easy for us to hold on to this lead. And this was I think a test in that regard. So yeah, when it came 3-3, you're a little annoyed that they blew the lead, but then you're like, all right, well, they made it 5-3. Like they did they figured out, okay, we lose the lead, we'll just get another lead back. And then when they made it 5-4, it was just another one of those like the penalty. I didn't like the penalty that was taken there.
Liljegren, yeah.
Yeah. So it was I'm glad that they didn't have a complete meltdown, but it was definitely a nervous third period, because Columbus was all over him that period.
Yeah, they were. Columbus was pushing and they were pressing, and like I said, Mrazek did make a couple of nice stops. Just taking a look at the game itself, that first period was as dominant as they come. If we break it down based on the metrics period by period, the Maple Leafs in that first period had an 80% shot share. They had an 80% 80% shot share, 76% scoring chance share, 76% high danger chances, and also expected goals at 77.5%. So they were just killing it. They outchanced them, outshot them, outscored them. Obviously, they took a 3-0 lead into the first period, and then it kind of got a little bit sloppy from there. Allowed them to get right back into it. And like you said, the third period, they pressed, they came back, and Mrazek had to make some tough stops. Toronto. When you look at the high danger chances, Toronto was outchanced 5-2 in that third period. right? So I think it wasn't a perfect night for Peter Mrazek. There might be a goal or two that he wants back, but a couple of goals. It was defensive breakdowns. It was tips in front, or it was tipped, at some point along the way. And it's going to be tough to stop those goals. But there wasn't a back-breaking weak goal tonight where you're like, Peter, you got to have that. And the type that changes this game from being, well, realistically, if they allow one more goal, one more back-breaking goal, or one sloppy one gets through them, that's a tie game. They're going to overtime, right? Like it was a one-goal game. It's a tie game, and you're going to overtime now. So I thought Peter Mrazek, decent rebound game for him. Wasn't perfect, but he was still pretty good. I think he had 31 stops in the win. But overall, like you mentioned that you wanted to talk a little bit about, the defensive structure in front of the goaltenders and how that may have been a bit of a concern for you tonight.
Yeah, especially the 3-2 goal. You're feeling pretty good about yourself. You had a good first period. Yeah, you let that first goal in. It wasn't, a goal you like to have go in, but it wasn't, all terrible. I just don't, like make it tough. Make it tough on the opponent, especially in front of that. They literally said going to this game, we are working on our net front presence because it was not very good, has not been very good. So what do? They're up 3-1. I can't remember. It was Nyquist that had the puck
Yeah.
skating to the top of the circle. So every player in white follows the puck to then leave Oliver Bjorkstrand in front of the net. I don't know about you, but that is not how you play defense. You do not need 3 players to chase the puck.
Yeah.
That just screams structural communication problems, and that right there is going. It doesn't matter who
It was
you have.
Liljegren. That was Liljegren. Liljegren left his
Yeah,
man, allowed Bjorkstrom to kind of get off to the side, and then allow him
exactly.
to find a nice open pocket in the zone, right in the slot. And Liljegren left his man to go and try and get. I mean, I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to force the puck, force a turnover, and away you go. It was 4-on-4. So if you can force that turnover, then you got Marner and Matthews going the other way on the counterattack. It, sounds good in theory, but if you don't make that stop and he gets the puck past you and you've left your man on an island, that's the easy, tap in there for Bjorkstrand on the back end. And that's exactly what ends up happening. And there's your 3-2 goal right there. So, yeah, I agree with you that there was some defensive lapses, but I will say this, and I think you'd agree with me. They've been a lot better of late when it comes to limiting those chances, when it comes to, backdoor tap-ins, when it comes to, rush chances, and they just have not been allowing those odd man rushes as
Yeah.
nearly as much anymore. So their defensive structure, I think, has been better of late. Tonight, I think there was a couple of miscues. That one, I think, is probably the most like specific one that I can think of as well.
Mhm.
Um, but ultimately, I think too, with when a goaltender like Peter Mrazek, who's so erratic and allows a lot of rebounds, you should maybe tighten it up a little bit more too, because then you get
Yeah.
situations where pucks are going right into the slot, nice juicy rebounds. Luckily, they didn't really turn into many goals. Like these goals came from kind of all around the ice a little bit. Didn't necessarily come from right in tight, all of them. And I thought that the defense wasn't terrible. I tell you what I did like, actually, what I really appreciated. Did you see when Lyubushkin went and dumped Bjorkstrand in the third period there? Talk about a
That was
box note.
yeah, like the bear. Like
Yeah,
I'm full on. He is the bear.
right?
Just no
Like
one's safe
Bjorkstrand
on
on the doorstep, and has a couple of, has a whack at it, and then he tries to go and stuff it, through the goalie, and Lyubushkin's like, I don't think so. Full on grabs a dude,
Okay.
mauls him, and just tosses him to the ice, and they're able to get the puck into the corner and away out of harm's way. That's the stuff that the team does need to have. They need a little bit of that snarl in front of the net. And he's bringing that, which is why I don't understand why we can't see him with Morgan Rielly. Maybe that's a conversation we could have on the other side here. But like, I really do feel like Lyubushkin and Morgan Rielly would be a good pairing. I think they would fit. I thought Rielly had a good game tonight, but I still want to see that at some point. Something else that I wanted to just make note of that I appreciated was Nick Robertson saving a goal. Yes, he gave the puck away for sure in the neutral zone giveaway. You never want to have that as he tried to gain the line, but then he got on his high horse and he chased Domi down, and he just got enough on his stick to kind of stick check him, tie him up, and he wasn't able to get a shot off. And Mrazek makes a stop. And then even on the rebound, went to go for the wraparound. I think it may have been Bjorkstrand there as well. Tries to wrap around, and he's, just leaning on him a little bit. That's not allowing Bjorkstrand to get all of that, and Mrazek makes a stop again. So a couple of nice defensive plays, off puck plays by Nick Robertson, which I think is a positive sign for him, considering he's still so young and a bit of a smallish player. The fact that he is, making some efforts to make some big time plays to stop goals defensively. So I did want to give that also a bit of a special shout out today. All right, let's get to our 3 stars of the game. But before we do, why don't we hear a word from today's show sponsor, Dave?
Yeah, so today's show sponsor, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing number of makes and models, it's now possible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So, what's the alternative? Maybe look at our, go to your computer, access rockauto.com at home, and guess what? You're going to find the savings not only in what you see online, but in your pocket as well. So, save time when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend 30, 50, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. So what can you do to get those savings? Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in their How You Hear About Us section so they know we sent you there. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. Alongside me, I've got my co-host, Dave Morassutti. We are your hosts of the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast available wherever you get your podcast from. You can also find us now up on YouTube as well. So go give us a follow and a subscribe there too. Maple Leafs getting off the schneid there, a couple of losses in a row, had Leafs Nation in a bit of a rut, bit of a tizzy this morning, but finally getting off the schneid, getting that victory tonight, 5-4 over the Columbus Blue Jackets. And as we do after every single game, or basically every game, let's go through our 3 stars of the night. I've purposely stayed away from these specific people as talking points, knowing that we were going to be glowing about them in this segment here. So why don't we kick it off? You start. Give me your 3rd star of the game.
My 3rd star, I'm going to give it to the third line, especially Ilya Mikheyev. Got the game going with the goal there. You mentioned last game Kyle Dubas's notes on how he's really liked their play.
Mm-hmm.
What better way to prove your GM right than just by having another good game? I thought they were pretty solid tonight, and they kind of got the juices flowing there with that first goal.
Yeah, they show up on my list as well, but I had them at 2nd. But at 3rd, my 3rd star, surprisingly a little bit, and you'll understand why later on, but I gave it to Morgan Rielly. I thought that Rielly had himself a pretty good game out there. When you look at the shot share metrics, he had 60% of the shot share while he was out on the ice, and was out there for on the ice for 3 goals tonight for the Maple Leafs as well, with an 80% expected goals for percentage. So a lot of good things, great things were happening when Morgan Rielly was out on the ice tonight. And specifically just something that he's not that he's lacked, but he has not been very good when it comes to limiting high danger chances. High danger goals, he's legitimately at the top of the league when it comes to being on the ice for high danger goals per 60 in the last couple of weeks, since the defensive pairings have been switched around a little bit. Limited them to only 2 high danger chances against tonight, which I thought was pretty good, considering that he had a bunch of defensive zone starts as well. So I wanted to give him a little bit of shout out there. I thought that he moved the puck well, kept some plays alive, jumped up into the rush, defended well. Overall, I liked Morgan Rielly's game, so I thought I'd toss him a bone, give him a 3rd star of the night from myself. Your second, well, I already said my 2nd star, so I might as well already just kind of keep going with it. But I gave the 3rd line as a whole my 2nd star, for a lot of the same reasons that you just laid out yourself. Like, I thought that they were a tremendous line together, and I'm really starting to grow into this line as like an awesome shutdown trio. And I wonder what's going to happen with Andre Kasha when he gets back now. It's almost like it's weird because I think he's a terrific player, but I don't want to touch this line at this point. Like, Engvall, Kampf, and Mikheyev are becoming a real solid line here. And you take a look at the shot share, 80% in their favor when they were out there on the ice. Shots, they had more shots on net than they did against them. And this is supposed to be a shutdown line. And that's what I find to be always so amazing. A line that's supposed to be your shutdown line, consistently finding themselves on the counterattack in the offense, creating speed, creating offense. You look at the expected numbers, 70% expected goals for when those three were out on the ice together. Ilya Mikheyev had himself a terrific game, I thought, utilizing his speed, chipping pucks into the zone, going in on some breakaways, getting shots off. There's one where I would have liked that 2-on-1 with him and Engvall in the second period. If he would have slid that over, I think Engvall might have had a backdoor tap in. But I just really like the fact that that line is turning defense into offense on a consistent basis. And their sticks were always very active. The goal that they had scored, the Mikheyev goal that was scored, it's just because Engvall just kind of head on a swivel, notices a puck that's just kind of being thrown, a pizza up the middle of the ice, and, his stick, right place, right time, stops it ahead of the blue line, keeps it onside, and then they go back for a counterattack rush chance, and ultimately a rebound goal. Mikheyev pounces on it, and boom, now they've got a nice little lead. So, I want to give them some respect for tonight's game. I thought that they were phenomenal as a trio, as they have been for a lot of time they've been together. 7-1 was a scoring chance ratio with them out on the ice. 7-1, crazy.
That's good. Yeah, no, that's third, and yeah, the Kasha part is so true because really, if Nick Robertson stays in the top 6 right now, where are you going to put him? Right? Do you do the 4th line where maybe you give one of those like Spezza and Simmons a night off because now Kerfoot's on that 4th line? You're not taking Kerfoot out of the lineup, so it's like, yeah, that's the part but it's depth in that bottom 6.
It's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. It's just going to be a matter of how do you figure out that puzzle when Kasha is ready to come back. We're not exactly sure what the issue is, and that probably complicates it a little bit. So don't rush him back if he doesn't need it.
Yeah. Your first star, Dave?
My first star, the first line. Like that like again, and like it was funny because like they had such a good game against Vancouver, and it was such a deflating game in terms of they were so good, and then it kind of went. They kind of missed an opportunity, and then it's just like, yeah, no, they're just going to dominate another game, and like Austin Matthews, 40 goals, like
I was at 40. By the way, I said he was at 40 last show. That was a lie. The score app lied to us, Dave. If you go and you look at the game, the score app lied on Saturday. And the second goal said 40 on it. And I swear I went with it thinking it was true. It was all lies. But now he's got 40 goals.
They were just forecasting the future. They knew
what I was doing. Little Mystic Mike forecasting the future a little bit. That's all I was doing. But absolutely, like that top line, they were buzzing, man. And they have been for months, really. I mean, and Sheldon Keefe spoke glowingly about that line post game too. But again, you just take a peek at the numbers, and it's just astounding what that line was able to do according to Natural Stat Trick. Again, massively tilted the shot share in their favor. 68% shot share went out there onto the ice. They outshot their opponents 14-5. Went out there on the ice. They're on the ice for 3 goals for 0 against. Like they combined for 6 goals. Each one of those guys, Bunting, Marner, Matthews, all getting a goal tonight. Like they're just always out there performing night in, night out. Expected goals of 71%. High danger chances. They out chance them in grade A high danger opportunities 10-3. That line alone had 10 high danger chances by themselves. You're going to win a lot of hockey games if you can get yourselves in those positions. And look where all those goals were scored, right in the greasy area, right around the net. That's where we score playoff goals as well. So when everyone says, oh, let's wait till we see what they do in the playoffs, this team's soft. I
can't see that line. You know what? I think the Michael Bunting factor is such. I think that's something. Look, Zach Hyman, great player. He was not 100% in those playoffs.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Michael Bunting will make a huge difference. He's going to be probably one of the favorite players to watch come playoff time.
So there was I'm going to actually, this is a quote from Sheldon Keefe. It looks like some of the post game is starting to come out here tonight. Sheldon Keefe had to say, Sheldon Keefe, it's not just that Bunting is benefiting by playing with Matthews and Marner. It's also that Matthews and Marner are benefiting by playing with Bunting. So here's the full quote there. Quote, there hasn't been a second of doubt really here for us for quite some time in terms of his ability to perform on that line and as a consistent contributor. And I say consistent contributor because that's what he is. Of course, he's benefiting with playing with Mitch and Austin, but those guys are benefiting playing with him as well. The energy that he brings, competitiveness that he brings, he gets a puck, he's holding on to it, and he's making a play. He's not intimidated playing with those guys. He plays with them. So yeah, he's been tremendous. And that's honestly, you're seeing a lot of that. And they showed it a couple of times. Like Matthews and Bunting have such a great relationship. Like they just have a great friendship, and they're having so much fun out there, contributing on each other's goals. Like I don't know if you saw the post game or afterwards, but they're apparently fighting about who got that final goal. It ended up going to Bunting unless they get another change overnight. But they were like, I'm pretty sure I got it. And then they're like, who cares? It's the go-ahead goal. We got the winner. All good. Like they at the end of the day, it was just a fun little clip. And yeah, that line it's been something else for a while here. We got to come up with a nickname for that line. We were trying to do that on Leafs Lunch a couple of days ago. We opened it up to suggestions from a bunch of listeners of the show. Why don't we open it up to suggestions for the listeners of this show? If you're on YouTube, comment down below. We need a name for that line, like the Perfection line in Boston, the Lotto line in Vancouver, which has since been broken up, but we need a name for this line because they're here to stay. If that's this line is here to stay.
Yeah,
so let's come up with a line name for these guys, a nice little nickname. So if you are listening via audio, hit me up on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck or Dave at D_Morassutti or the show at Locked On Leafs. If you're on YouTube, write down in the comment section below a suggestion for what this team name, this line's nickname should be called. Go ahead. Does anything stick out to you right up at the top of your head? There was a line that there was one suggestion that I did kind of appreciate. It's like the BAM line, because they go out there and BAM,
Bunting, Austin,
Mitch. Yeah. There was also the MMA line that somebody had, and it's like, if they were a little bit more gritty, like they fought,
yeah,
it would make a little bit more sense. Like tough guys, you know what I mean? Like Bunting is a little bit of a gritty, greasy player, but he's not, going to sit there and, run you over and drop the mitts every other game. Which, hey, Justin Hall, shout out for that fight tonight. I'm not sure that warranted a fight. Did you get what the hell is that all about, man?
I don't know. That sometimes when it comes to fighting, it can get so random that I'm just like, okay.
Well, if there's anything I learned, it's basically don't breathe on Max Domi. Don't pin him to the boards, perhaps, because it's not like it was a dirty fight. It wasn't a dirty hit. It wasn't a late hit. It wasn't even a hard hit. He literally just leaned on him and put his forearm on him and fought for a puck along the boards. It was just a board battle, at the end of the day. And I don't understand why Max Domi took exception to that. I guess maybe he was trying to get his team riled up and was like, all right, maybe we can get some energy this way. But that was an interesting fight. Definitely did not feel like Justin Hall had to answer any type of bell for that play. But what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Anything else from tonight's game that stuck out to you before we move on to the game against Seattle?
The last thing Nick Robertson getting promoted to the second power play unit.
PP2, yes.
I think we mentioned he looked pretty good during the game. He's noticeable. The effort's there, and I like that Sheldon Keefe kind of rewarded him with that power play time. It's just more positive reinforcement to a young guy that's kind of trying to find his way and get himself into a role with this team. And I think you keep running this guy as long as he's comfortable and he's being a positive influence in the lineup. So another decent night for Nick Robertson.
Yeah, I thought so too. He's someone who I think is continuing to earn his way. He has not completely earned it yet. Obviously, it's only been 2 games, but he's doing things on a nightly basis that is making you think, okay, maybe this guy can be that internal option for this team. Like that line had some jump again tonight, and Nick Robertson I think is bringing that. So positive signs. Positive signs. For this Maple Leafs team after a couple of tough games against Buffalo and then just a collapse in the third period against Vancouver. All right, let's take one more break. When we get back, we'll tee up tonight's game against the Seattle Kraken, and we'll do that after we hear from one of our show sponsors, and that's betonline.net. Football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, betonline.net is the #1 spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. It's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your favorite source for hockey, boxing, UFC odds, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. We got Dave Morassutti alongside with me, my co-hosts here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. All right, night one of the back-to-back in the books. 5-4 win against the Columbus Blue Jackets in Columbus. They now travel back home to Toronto, where the Seattle Kraken are awaiting them. What are you expecting out of this one? Jack Campbell will get the start in this game. And if you'll recall, a couple weeks ago, Jack Campbell also played in that game, I believe. Right? Let me actually.
Yeah, that was probably one of his better games.
That's what it was. Yeah, it was right before the Pittsburgh game.
Yes. So it was the end of their Western road trip. They had just lost to Vancouver. Mrazek was in net for that one. They put Campbell in. And yeah, that was one of Campbell's better outings in considering what happened lately. This is a Seattle team that isn't very good, but again, we're finding out now in the NHL, you can't that doesn't mean too
That
much.
doesn't mean anything. No.
Like look at what the Sabres did to the Leafs. Look at what teams it's just the way that things have been going lately. So you can't take any team lightly, especially.
No.
I think Jaden Schwartz and Jared McCann are back in the lineup, and that
Jaden Schwartz is for sure. I'm not sure about McCann. I know Schwartz is though.
I was reading that they were supposed to make their returns, so that's a big boost to the Kraken because they're both top line players. Jared McCann, former Leaf, top line player for the Kraken.
Yeah, former Leaf. Yeah, of course, former Leaf. Hey, he did score in the last game, though. He did score in the last game. He's a Leaf killer. We all know that. But yeah, I'm just looking up that last game. Yeah, it was a 6-2 win, Toronto over the Seattle Kraken. But if you recall, in that game, the Kraken really controlled most of that game. Like they controlled the pace of the play, which again is a concerning trend. If you're Toronto, they consistently play down to your opponents. The problem is, Seattle they're just not a very good team. So Toronto can really play like 50% of their game and looks like they can go out and get a 6-2 victory by doing that. But that was like an overall just a good game, I think, by Jack Campbell, if I do recall. So, he's going to get the start again. Hopefully, it's the first sign of him turning his game around. Did you hear this news yesterday in practice? Sheldon Keefe talking about how he feels like Jack is close. He's close to turning it around and getting back to his old self. He saw some signs in practice that are that show that, similarly to the way that Tavares seemed like he was close and he was going to break out at any moment, and then finally he did in Vancouver or against Vancouver, and now he feels Jack Campbell's close. My question to you, Dave, do you think that he actually is close? Do you think do you think that Keefe believes in the words that are coming out of his mouth, or is that just straight up lip service?
I was just saying it sounded exactly like Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. Sorry, the reference there from my childhood can't go past that. But
You understand the words coming out of my mouth?
nobody understands the words that come out of your mouth, man. Sorry, had to do that. Just have to do it every time. I think like when it comes to Sheldon Keefe, he is trying to be delicate as possible with the goaltending, and maybe he is. I mean, we haven't watched practice, so maybe he is showing signs. Like with the Vancouver game, it
Dude.
wasn't bad for 2 periods. It was the third period that really stunk it for them, right? The practice part, okay, like you can say that because you're like it's easy for the coach to say that, but it's the fans
Dude,
don't really care about that until the game
we
time.
talking about practice? Practice.
We're going with all the 2000 early 2000 references, aren't we?
We talking about practice. I
Not the
just
game. Not the game.
Not a game. We're seeing signs that he's looking good in practice. He lost 5 goals. He's allowed 5 goals in 7 of his last 14 starts. 15% of his last 14 starts, he's allowing 5 goals. But you should see what this guy looks like in practice. He looks like the second coming of Marty Brodeur, let me tell you that. I don't care, Dave. I don't care, Sheldon. I need to see this guy go out here and show me in a game like he's been saying he's going to do for a while now. After every game, he sits there and like I hate that I got to be hard on the guy because I like Jack as a person. I think he's an incredible human being. I think he's a good goalie. He certainly is not as bad as he's been lately. But after every game, he consistently says, tonight's performance was unacceptable. I'll be better next time. I'll do better next time. I'll figure it out. It's now been 2.5, 3 months. He still hasn't figured it out. Like, so until he shows this to me, I don't want to hear about how good he looks in practice. And I don't want to hear from Jack about how I'll be better next time. The actions speak louder than words. Let's see it. And let's not just see it for one game like he did last time against Seattle. We got to see it on a consistent basis. We got to see him string together a solid 4 or 5 games, get that confidence back up for the guy, and then he can get back to being a slightly above average league goaltender because that's all this team needs. If they can get average league goaltending, I think that they can actually do some damage here in the playoffs. I really think that they could do that. But if they're going to get sub 900 goaltending the rest of the way, this team ain't going nowhere. Ain't going nowhere, Dave. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Since January 6th, he's got a league worst 867 save percentage. He's allowing 8 since then, so that's 14 starts since then. 14 start sample size. He also has allowed 18 goals allowed above expected.
That's not good.
So 18 goals allowed above what an average goaltender is expected to save. An average goalie. That's how poor he's been. The next worst is something like 12 goals above expected in that same time period. Like that's how poor he's been. He's allowing more than a goal a game that he shouldn't in his last 14 starts. The eye test tells you that that's basically what's happening too. And they talk about Sheldon Keefe talks about we just need that one save. Just got to get that one save. We need to make one of those stops. Sure, it was a deflection. Maybe you didn't see it. It was screened, but you need to get one of them. Peter Mrazek made that one save tonight. He was able to make that, especially late in the game when they were really pressing. They had a couple of good looks, and after they had made it 5-4, they had 2 or 3 shots with the net empty and a couple of good opportunities. One that went right over the net. But he made those stops. He made sure that he made that one final save. Jack's got to go out there and do the same thing.
Yeah, like it's if Jack Campbell allows, let's say against Seattle, he allows 3 goals, but he makes the big saves, no one will care about the 3 goals he allowed. If he
No, they win
allows
right. If they win 5-3, but he stops, or if they win 4-3, let's say 5-3, but he stops that one goal that would have totally changed the course of the game, no one's talking about those 3 goals.
no, not at all. Like I think that's the big thing for Campbell is it doesn't matter even if you allow 4 goals. If you make the big save late in the game, it's a positive step forward. We're not expecting you to go out and have a shutout in your next game. You have to build to something. But if you
Nope.
have a shutout, thank you. Like,
Right,
we're not
right.
gonna say Jack, don't you know what? If you allow if the goal if you feel like you can make the save or the goal, it doesn't matter. It's whatever gets the win. No, just like
It's a perfect example. You know what they're not talking about on yesterday's episode of Locked On Canucks?
oh.
They're not talking about the 4 goals that Thatcher Demko allowed in the game against Toronto. They're not talking about him because he shut the door and got the saves when they needed it and allowed them to get the 2 points, allowed them to leave Toronto with the win, where Jack didn't, and that's why we're talking about him.
I thought we were about to claim civil war on Locked On Canucks for a second there. I was like, hey.
No. But I'm just like, that's right. Like that's what you're saying. He can allow 4 goals, but it's when are you allowing those goals? How are you allowing those goals? Right? Like Demko, those 4 were 4 legitimate goals. And then he made some big stops on top of that to keep them in it and allow them to win the game. So that's not a storyline in Vancouver today and tomorrow. But Jack Campbell's been a massive storyline here in Toronto. But he'll have an opportunity against a non-playoff team, against a team who this team should beat. They don't have a lot of, good players, if we're being completely honest. And if you look at what Seattle's doing right now, they are not playing good hockey. They have 1 victory in their last 10 games since these two teams played. 1 victory since the last time these two teams have played. That was a 4-3 win over Nashville.
I was about to say, yeah, it was against Nashville, which I mean, Nashville's not a bad team.
No, good team for sure.
That's a good team, but this is a Seattle team that has really struggled.
Yeah. I mean, in between that, they lost to San Jose, they lost to the Islanders, lost to Vancouver, Winnipeg, Boston. They're losing every single night except that one. You can't allow this team, like you did with Buffalo, who was on a 6-game losing streak, to come in there, dictate play, and win the game. This is one where Toronto not only needs to beat them, but beat the piss out of the Seattle Kraken. Like, ink needs to go everywhere. Ink everywhere, because you stomp on their throats and just everywhere. You know what I mean? They have ink, right?
We're getting quite visual here, Mike. We're getting quite illustrative with the beating down. Yeah. Good luck.
Well, that's rare, right? Kraken, their little octopus, so that they got like ink. Yes.
Right. Yeah, I got you. I
was making sure I had it correct with, I don't know, some other animal or some other animals, amphibians, mammals. I don't know. Who cares? We're going off topic about that one. But at the end of the day, Toronto's got to win this game. They have you take a look at what they're doing. They should win each and every game. I mean, look at Toronto from an offensive perspective. They're averaging 3.7 goals per game. Seattle's allowing 3.6 goals per game. So realistically, Toronto should go in there and they should score at least 4 goals in this game. Whereas you look at Seattle, they're only averaging 2.5 goals per game, which is 28th in the NHL. You should be able to score more than 2.5 goals per game. You're averaging more than a goal per game over that. So this is a game you got to go in there. You got to win. They concede a lot of shots. They're ranked 31st when it comes to shots. So they don't generate a whole lot. They surprisingly though, they do suppress a lot of shots. Actually, they're second in the league when it comes to shots given up per game. That is interesting to me. I look at that. I still think Toronto.
You know how high on analytics Seattle is, so that doesn't surprise me a lot. But offensively, they don't have the talent offensively there, and defensively, like they have some decent pieces, but they don't have I mean, the goaltending also just hasn't been there either for them. So, but again, we saw it last week. We all kind of expected the Leafs to have an easier time with the Buffalo Sabres, and that didn't happen. So really what you're looking for is do not do that again. You lose to Seattle, that's just that like you thought the Sabres one was bad. You don't want to see what will happen if you lose to the Kraken.
No. No. That would be awful if they lost to the Kraken.
And we don't want that. We're not manifesting that. We're not asking for it. Just so we fans know, we're not usually negative people. Mike and I, pretty positive people. They make it so damn hard sometimes.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Like, I can only imagine. I think I saw, what is this? They got a line right now for this game. 270, minus 270. Which, funny enough, speaks to how scared people are to bet on Toronto based on their recent reputation. Because typically in games like this, they're like minus 300, minus 400. The fact that they're only like minus 70 or minus 270, which is still a decently high number, actually tells me that Vegas is like, Toronto should beat them, but like the way they've been playing lately, there's a chance that they could falter against Seattle. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, really, really funny.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it's not like haha funny. That's sad, kind of funny, I suppose. All right. Anything else that you're looking forward to in this game? I think it's just a bounce back from Jack Campbell. Hopefully the offense just kind of keeps it rolling the way they did tonight. All four lines I thought played well. Hopefully they can do that again coming into night two. Sandin could be back in the lineup tomorrow night, so I'll be curious to see who comes out of the lineup for him. Who do you think should come out of the lineup for him? Because I have an answer. I'm curious if it's the same as yours, if he is, in fact, back tonight.
Sorry, say it, Sandin?
Yeah.
So I was wondering if this would be the ideal opportunity to try the Rielly Lyubushkin pairing, because I think you take Liljegren out of the lineup.
So we're on the same page.
Yeah, that would be my and I think Luke Fox kind of wrote about this in his takeaways from the game tonight. And like Keith said that Lyubushkin's in a really good place, but he also said he's like a sponge.
He spoke about this yesterday in practice. Yeah, yesterday he did. I today on Leafs Lunch, I made my case for why Lyubushkin should play with Morgan Rielly. You want to hear the stat pack that I got prepared here? Technically, we got time. What do we have? 40 minutes. Okay, I'll go through this quickly. I'll make my case right now why I think Ilya Lyubushkin should be given an opportunity to play alongside Morgan Rielly. I think that this needs to happen. So when you look at Morgan Rielly, or you look at Ilya Lyubushkin rather, I think that he can play with top pairing D-men. Like he played with Jacob Chikrin, he played with OEL when he was in Arizona. So it's not something that's foreign to him. Playing top minutes, playing against top players, also not foreign to him. It's something that he could do, and he's extremely reliable in his own end doing that because he suffocates you and he pushes you around, and he's the Russian bear. It's what he does. He's really reliable in his own end, and I think that would pair nicely and well with Morgan Rielly, who it allows him to be able to feel comfortable jumping up into the rush, knowing that he's got a stable defenseman back there like Lyubushkin, unlike Rasmus Sandin and at times Timothy Liljegren. And I think that would give him maybe just a little bit more comfort doing that. But when you look at Lyubushkin's numbers specifically since the trade coming to Toronto, he's second in the league. These numbers were coming into tonight. They may have changed by now, but coming into tonight, he was second in the league in expected goals against per 60, allows the fifth fewest amount of scoring chances against per 60, and leads all defensemen in the NHL with the fewest high danger chances against per 60. 3.92 high danger chances against per 60, and leads the NHL also in high danger chance for percentage with 75% of the high danger chances going in favor of the Toronto Maple Leafs when he's out there on the ice. So the fact that he kills offense, I think, is a little bit of a fallacy. Is he himself an offensive defenseman who's going to move the puck up for you? No, but I don't think he's going to kill offense. He's a guy who doesn't mind pinching in and keeping play alive, but he's also a guy who will get back, hustle, and make sure that he takes away your chance and clogs up the neutral zone. It doesn't allow you to break in. So he has that, type of he plays a different element, a different style than some of the other guys that are on this roster. And I feel like him and Rielly might be able to gel together. And when you look at what the biggest issue has been with these two goaltenders of late and Morgan Rielly, it's the high danger chances or the high danger goal scoring. And the fact that Peter Mrazek and Jack Campbell, both dead last in the NHL since December 1st when it comes to high danger save percentage. Well, Ilya Lyubushkin, and since coming to Toronto, leads the NHL with the fewest amount of high danger chances against. So he limits those opportunities. And Morgan Rielly has been on the ice for the most high danger goals for in that same time period. So you put him with a defenseman who limits that. That should also prop up Morgan Rielly a little bit, and that should help with the goaltenders who've been struggling, because then they're not facing those high quality shots. Like tonight when he went and he just bulldozed Bjorkstrand, who was on the doorstep trying to bang away at rebounds. He said, "I don't think so." Big old pancake offensive lineman style, and that negated the entire play. And it allowed them to control and hold on to that lead. So I want to see Ilya Lyubushkin playing on a pair with Morgan Rielly. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but I do want to see it happen. And Sheldon Keefe on Sunday said that, he's feeling more and more comfortable. He wanted to allow Lyubushkin to get to know his line mates a little more, his teammates, and he's getting there. And I think that at some point here soon, he is going to feel comfortable and he'll feel like he can rely on Lyubushkin in those situations, and he'll put those two together. I called it with Robertson. I wanted to see it there. It worked. I think the same thing will happen here with Lyubushkin and Morgan Rielly. End scene. Thoughts?
All right. Just gonna drop. I don't want to drop this mic. I like this mic, but no, I totally agree, and I think that's what the Leafs. If you're looking for a defenseman at the trade deadline, and we know how much they're into the numbers and the analytics, that right there is what you should be looking for, because and people are saying that maybe now it's time to find Rielly that top that pair that right side pairing. I think maybe you bring back TJ Brody with him if you're not going to do Lyubushkin, and then you make it you make Lyubushkin work with like a Sandine or something like that. So
yeah, or on the third pair with Sandine, and then you get someone on the left side for as long as Muzzin's out to play with Justin Hall.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Like
We'll see.
That's what I think is most optimal. You don't have to go out and get that dynamic offensive scoring defenseman. The problem we have seen, it's in the numbers and and the eyes can see it. Now it's a matter of, can we find the right player to fit that spot? I think Lyubushkin was a good first step. It's now you need to find, I guess, another Lyubushkin who Keefe will like to put in the top four.
I think he'll give him an opportunity. I mean, he's experimenting with a bunch of different things. I think now might be the time to do it. After 6-7 games, now you kind of know your teammates. You're familiar with them, you're comfortable with them, you understand their tendencies. You've been playing with Morgan Rielly on the PK a little bit, so you're understanding how he likes to play, especially in his own end. You've been communicating with him. Now I think we'll see it happen at 5-on-5 at some point here soon. I'd be shocked if he doesn't try it. I would be shocked, because it just makes too much damn sense. Makes too much sense, Dave, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a guy who sits here and speaks in a mic. I'm not the one who draws the X's and O's. That's Sheldon, and he's paid handsomely to do that. Money I wish that I could have. But all right, I think that'll do it for us here today. Dave, should be a fun one tonight. Toronto, they'll go for 2 in a row against the Seattle Kraken. They'll try and remain undefeated against the Seattle Kraken in their entire long, illustrious history between those two franchises. Yes, they've never lost to the Kraken. This is true. Hopefully they can keep it going tonight. Game 7:30, by the way. You lied. It changed from 8 to 7:30. You said the other day from
Oh,
7:30 that was the change from 8 to
it's a good thing you brought
7:30.
that up because somebody might have gone out for a dinner thinking they had time to go for 8
Yes.
o'clock, missed a good portion of the game, and then been like, see what happens when you listen to Dave? So we both have full pause, except mine might have been more costly if somebody actually listened to me.
There you go.
Oh, you
And if
should
you're
say
if you're
something.
I mean, if you're still listening to this podcast 50 minutes in, hell, I appreciate you and you benefit because A, you listened to my Lyubushkin rant and hopefully you enjoyed it. And B, now you know the correct time of puck drop. Whereas before, if you have just listened to Dave from yesterday's podcast, you'd be sitting there and you'd be about 3/4 into the first period by the time it tossed the TV on, and you'd be pretty upset. You almost lost those subscribers, Dave. Almost lost those subscribers. All right.
Did I? I don't know.
All right, that's gonna do it for us here today, folks. It was a fun show as per usual. Hopefully the Maple Leafs can get back rolling, get in a groove here. We need them to get into a groove. We need Jack to get into a groove. He's looked good in practice, but can he get it done in a game? That's going to do it for us here today on the pod. I'd like to thank you for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcasts and platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. And follow the show at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back another episode tomorrow. We will be breaking down the game against the Kraken. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked